Okay, you have studied a ton at this point. Well, hopefully you studied a ton. Maybe you just watched the videos and just checked out and ate some chips and put things on mute and just watched Netflix while your video counter went along. But listen, hey, I'm not here to judge. We'll see how it goes on your test. But that's where it gets tricky, right? Because you have this test coming up and it gets it's a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of nervousness. So here are some different things that I want to give you some tips and ideas as you prepare yourself for the test. Number one, it's just a test. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, sure, you got to pay some money to take it. It's like $60 to take it. But you know what happens if you don't pass? Go take it again. It's not that big of a deal. Like there's not, I've been doing real estate a long time. Got my license in the early 2000s. And I have been on many, many client appointments over the years. And I have never once been asked how many times I had to take my real estate test. No one's ever asked me what my grade was. Nobody asked me how quickly I took my real estate classes. Because you know what? Nobody even cares. The only person that cares right now is maybe you and maybe your mom. And maybe that's weird that she would even care that much about your real estate test. But seriously, I mean, you got this test coming up, you'll be fine. You got the reviews. Even if you take the test, you're gonna find out what sections you're not very good at if you need to go and retake it again. But a couple things that get overwhelming for people are not knowing everything. Well, you're not gonna know everything. The thing to keep in mind is that the people who wrote the test, it's the easiest way to use as example would be to compare it to a sports analogy. So if you've ever played a sport, for me, I grew up playing basketball. Basketball is kind of my favorite sport. Grew up as a huge Chicago Bulls fan. If I was gonna go take a test on basketball, there are different ways that test could go. It'd be a different test if Michael Jordan gave me the test versus a referee gave me a test. Now, if a referee gave me a test, what's that test gonna be about? It's gonna be about all the rules of the game. It's gonna be about what happens when this happens. What happens if the ball goes out of bounds? What happens if this happens? When it comes to our real estate exams and the real estate test, it's not written by the best players in real estate. It's not written by the Michael Jordans of real estate. It's written by the referees. It's written by the division of real estate. They are looking at it and they're saying, okay, do you know the rules of the game? So what you're looking at is looking at all the ways that you can get fined. What are all the ways that are penalties? What are all the things that they would try to enforce? Because what they want to look at is to understand if you understand the rules of the game, what you can't do is go back and say, well, I didn't know. No one ever told me that I get in trouble for doing that. So what they're really looking at is, do you understand the ways that you can get penalized? And what are the penalties if you get in trouble? So that's where you really want to double down on and start to look at and say, okay, well, what are the penalties? What are the different deadlines that are in place? What are the different things that can happen in that end? And because the real estate exam is not about your proficiency, it's not about your proficiency in doing real estate, because you have some amazing real estate agents who would do terrible at tests. In fact, we had an agent in our brokerage. It took her 13 times to pass the test. 13 times. She's a terrible test taker. She gets super anxious and super nervous. But you know what? That agent, within a matter of years, was selling over 70 homes a year. And nobody's ever asking her how many times she should take a real estate test.
Good job.
So it's all good. You just understand that your approach to studying will be looking at the rules of the game, understanding how that's all going to be set up. The second thing I would give you as advice on that is to take a deep breath. When you're anxious, you're going to overthink this process. Just take a deep breath, just be able to calm your nerves and go through and take the exam. The third reminder would be, you're going to have a gut feeling on a lot of those test exams, like when you're going through and looking at the answers. On some of them, you might just put your answer down. I would make sure you read the questions all the way through, because many of the questions, if you read it really fast, it seems like there's one answer because it's the quick impulse answer, but I would reread it a second time just to make sure that you understood it completely before you answer it all the way. And I would say more often than not, your gut feeling after you go through is probably the right one. When you start to second guess yourself and overthink it, you're probably getting yourself in a little bit of a weird spot in that. And so again, the reviews are great. I would go through the review classes. I would study up on the different concepts around the review, and you'll do great. And in the end, if you don't, who cares? Just take it again. No big deal.